Well, it's the end of the year. 2019 comes to an end, and we welcome 2020. However, we not only say goodbye to the previous year, but also say goodbye to the past decade. So, I thought I'd go back and talk about my personal favorite anime from the past decade. I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one, but I just want to have fun with this. Now, there was a lot of anime released over the past 10 years. I mean a ton. So, I'll be narrowing it down to the top 3 for each year, with a few exceptions. So the way I'll be picking these shows are either I really enjoyed them, have fond memories of them, or they were very popular among my friends and they had a huge impact on me. And since these are based off my own personal opinions, my picks may not be the same as yours. So let's get started. So prior to 2010, I was just barely getting back into the genre of anime with shows like Code Geass and Haru Suzumiya. So I wasn't exactly watching shows seasonally like I am now. There were a few shows that did manage to get my attention. The runner-ups for 2010 were High School of the Dead and Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. Both of these shows are memorable in different ways. Of course, High School of the Dead being for fan service
and good story,
and Gundam Unicorn for reintroducing me into the Gundam franchise. However, the anime of 2010 would have to be The Disappearance of Haru Suzumiya. As mentioned, Haru got me back into anime. I was one of those people who was watching the show when people uploaded to YouTube. So when the movie was announced, I was excited. The movie has those moments that honestly feel like they wrap up the previous decade, or rather last few years of high school for me, and it helped me move forward. As well, it has one of the most powerful moments in all of anime, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'll talk more about it one day, but for now, let's move on. 2011 has some shows that will kind of be a foundation of what is to come. Macross Frontier, The Wings of Goodbye, and Blue Exorcist are the runners-up for this year. Macross Frontier was an action movie that had both romance and great music. It is my go-to after Macross 7 for people when they ask what Macross anime to watch. Blue Exorcist, on the other hand, was a show that really got to me. I honestly was able to relate a lot to Ren, and that may be why I was so interested in the show. However, the big anime of 2011 was Madoka Magica. By now we all know what happens, but just in case I'll leave it at this. I had friends who were really into Madoka, and so it kind of rubbed off on me. And to this day we still make jokes about the series, going back and just having fun poking at it. It's 2012, the world is about to end, so what anime did I really like back then? Well, 2012 introduced me into the anime shorts. Which brings us to Inferno Cop and Loser, both of the runner-ups this year. Both these shows had their own brand of comedy that was either surreal or just over the top. And because of that, I really liked these shows. However, the number one anime at the end of the world was Bimbo Gamiga, or otherwise known as Good Luck Girl. I don't know why this anime got to me, but it really did. Maybe it was the Shinto-inspired characters, or the over-the-top comedy, or just being a general parody of so many other shows, but I really did enjoy this show. 2013 was an epic year for anime, and it was hard to choose. The runner-ups were the third Madoka Magica movie and Kill la Kill. The Madoka movie being an awesome way to tie things together, but man was that an intense watch. And Kill la Kill, a massive storm that took over. It was everywhere. Gurren Lagann as a schoolgirl. It was just amazing. But above all, I guess the show that really got me in 2013 was Golden Time. I went to Golden Time not knowing what to expect. But holy crap, this show was a real intense show. So much going on. It was just emotionally intense, and it definitely spoke to me. The thing that got to me the most was no matter how much the past tries to come up and haunt you and whatever, at the end of the day, it's just the past, and it can't get you, and there's no way to go back to it. No matter how much you try, no matter how much it forces itself on you, there's just no way to get back what was once there. And that was really just what got to me, and for that reason alone, it gets the number one spot. 2014 was a busy year for contenders, and at this point, I believe I have fully given in to seasonal anime. For the runner-ups, we have Space Dandy and Akame ga Kill. Again, both of these shows were overall fun, and I had fun watching them with my friends. From the over-the-top nostalgic adventures of Dandy and his crew, to the can't wait for next week's episode and jokes we made about Akame ga Kill, these shows are the best. However, one show beat them both. Parasite the Maximum. This show was pretty big, and watching it was very interesting. I at first wasn't really into it and thought, okay, whatever. But as I watched it, the show grew on me, and it definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. And just watching it, making some jokes about it, having fun with it, and it was just a good show, and I have fond memories of watching it. 2015. Oh, this was a fun year. The runner-ups for 2015 were the amazingly fun One Punch Man and Chivalry of a Failed Knight. One Punch Man I had fun watching with some family, and the satire of the superhero genre was just amazing. Chivalry of the Failed Knight, on the other hand, was obviously fan service, but by the end of it, I've come to love the characters, and I definitely enjoyed where they went, and I'll definitely talk about this show later on. However, the big anime of 2015 for me was Monster Musume. How could I not? This anime had everything. Comedy, monster girls, comedy, yeah. But really, this one anime I honestly miss. I remember having that empty feeling once it was over. I guess that's just a sign it was a good show. 2016 came in strong with a few heavy hitters. Runner-ups this time around are New Game and, oddly enough, Konosuba. New Game presented office life in a fun way, and at least in my experience, this is how it kinda worked in real life. Though not cute girls doing stuff like this, but just having overall fun. Then we have Konosuba. I'll do a whole video on this one day, but for now, this show, it was amazing, and I'll be honest, I don't think I started buying merchandise for a show like this so fast since the days of Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. It's definitely worth a watch. Now, what can be Konosuba? Well, there was a little show called Space Patrol Luluko. This is a massive love letter to all things Trigger and an homage to all things Gainax. As a huge Gurren Lagann fan, this show hit certain strings, being both a tribute and an inside joke at Trigger. I just had a great time watching it. 2017 was another great year, and we had such great shows. Kicking it off with the runner-ups, we have Kobayashi's Dragon Maid and Maid in Abyss. Dragon Maid was a real treat to watch. Watching home life with a mystical, elemental creature is definitely up my alley. While Maid in Abyss was a show that was just amazing, from the art style to the intensity. Oh boy, this show got intense. However, the number one spot is kind of a split. I was going to give it to Konosuba Season 2 just because I'm a huge fan, but I think another show deserves it more. That show is Recreators. This show was quite the inversion for the isekai genre, and because of that, it really hit a home run. The show blurs a line between what is considered reality and what is fiction, because it is fiction to us, but is it fiction to the fictional characters? This show has a little bit of everything, and to avoid spoilers, I'll just leave it at that. It's 2018, and boy, that year things were really going for it. So in 2018, the runner-ups were the notorious Goblin Slayer, say what you want, but it was nice to have a darker look at the fantasy world. And Cells at Work, the Osmosis Jones of anime. This show was super fun, and I actually learned a lot about the human body in it. But as for the number one spot of 2018, I honestly couldn't pick, so we're going to have a 2-for-1. Starting with SSSS Gridman. So SSSS Gridman gave me this feeling that Monster Musume gave me after it was over, that kind of void, like, well, it's over, and now what? The show was definitely fun, and I was always looking forward to it each week. The monster fights, the nostalgia, the combination of tokusatsu, Trigger, Gainax style, and all this fun stuff, all mixed together. And the best part is, I actually had a show to talk about at work because, hey, guess what? Coworker watched it too. We had a great time watching that show. And the other show, Laid Back Camp. So, what can I say? This was a comfy show, just pure comfy. It was fun, cute, and the music, it was amazing. The nice soundtrack, very relaxing. I recommend checking that out. And here we are, at long last, 2019. So what happened this year? 2019 was a busy year, and just like the past few years, a bit too much to pick from, but I made my pick. So the runner-ups are the Quintessential Quintuplets and Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka. So the Quintessential Quintuplets was a comedy with characters who were just fun to get to know. On the flip side though, Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka hit with that PTSD. It felt like a post-Madoka anime, and for that reason I really enjoyed it. However, the number one anime of 2019 would have to be The Promised Neverland. This anime had me hooked. I couldn't wait till the next episode. I was just overly excited to see what happens next. From start to end, each episode was like building a puzzle in my head. And that is it. My top picks for anime over the past decade. I'll be honest, it was a lot harder to choose than I thought it would be, but here we are. As for the best of the decade, I honestly can't say. Each of these shows has their own strengths and weaknesses, and to pick an anime that defines an entire decade, well, I think that's pretty beyond me, at least for right now. But this decade has been full of changes, and I'm glad I could have such great shows to keep me company for the ride. So here it is, to the next decade, hoping it'll be just as good. Oh boy, editing this thing, I really didn't think I was going to get it done in time. I had conventions and panels and cosplay and all this stuff to do all at the end of the year. I really didn't think I was going to get this out, but did it, so yay! If you liked what you saw, then please feel free to subscribe. I got a few other things down the pipe that should be up within the next few weeks, so stick around.